Welcome to Dunsmore Moving Dirt, where we're fixing to go in where we're grubbing this over here, doing the grubbing job. And I've got to come up here and get those on the north side of this field, and then there's a trap right there I've got to grub. The dozer's on the other side of it. But I wanted to show you a minute. This pasture here across the road was cleared some time ago. You can see the brush piles, and with pretty good sized brush in there. But I don't know if you can tell it, but all of this green stuff coming back is mesquite trees, and that's why I harp so much on the ground conditions, how much moisture you got when you're working in mesquite trees. They're not like any other tree, and if you're not in Texas, you probably don't have to deal with mesquite trees. But if you cut one off, if you break it off below the ground, if you leave part of the stump in the ground, it comes back just like that, just like a bush. And it just makes them harder and harder to control. That's probably been cleared for several years. It takes a while to come back, but when it does, it's just a bush. It may have 7 or 8 trunks coming from that stump right there, and pretty much, now that was thick brush. You can tell how close the piles was and everything, but still those trees were cut off. They weren't pulled completely out of the ground, and that's the only way mechanically, if you're trying to clean up a pasture, that you're gonna get a good kill on the trees. If you have to have all of that stump out of the ground. You can't have any part of it broke off on the side root, or it comes back just like that. And it looks good for 2 or 3 years, and then you'll start to see green coming up out there, and you could probably walk out there and see part of a stump that was left when they cleared it. So it just takes, there's just 2 ways you can control mesquite trees, mechanically or chemically. With chemicals, and a lot of big areas and farms and stuff, they just totally spray everything, or they'll get it cleared once, and then the regrowth is small enough they can control it. But a new tree that comes up from seed is a single trunk tree most of the time, unless something cuts it off, or if a cow steps on it and breaks it, or a piece of machinery. The more the top gets broke off, the more comes up from the ground to replace it. And a tree like that's hard to control chemically. Now, you may burn it back for 1 year with chemicals, but what's the problem when you cut off a big tree? The stump is a whole lot more bigger than what's on top, and the only way that poison can come down into the stump to kill it is through what's on top of the ground, pulling it into the bottom. So I mean, you're always going to cut something off, or leave one or something, or knock it down and it gets covered up. But when you see that many out there, that's a sign that it was probably too dry to be out there working to begin with. They cut a bunch of trees off, and the landowner probably didn't realize it till 2 years after that, and he started seeing mesquite trees coming back. Which, like I say, you're never going to control all of them, because in Texas they come up. You can be farming a field, you've heard me say it before, you quit farming the field and it gets taken over by mesquite trees. So
the U.S. Army budget. So essentially,
there's just so many things that you can do to control them. But more and more now, especially in Texas, people are moving out into the country. They got mesquite trees, and they may not be familiar with them. That's kind of really why I'm doing a lot of these videos, just to inform people what happens, how to control stuff. There's people that'll go in there and just cut them off top of the ground with a blade, pile them up, and you think you've got a good clearing job till 2 years down the road, and there's nothing but solid mesquite trees again. So as more and more people move out into the country and buy parcels of land, and pastures are being split up to sell for people to live on. There's just certain things. This is just the informative part of this channel, just so you'll know what to expect if someone comes in to clear your land. Like I say, a mesquite tree is not like any other kind of tree. Most trees, you cut them off at the ground and they're dead. But not a mesquite tree. It just continues to grow and thrive. I mean, that's the way the good Lord made them here in Texas, I guess, because they're hard to kill. So anyway, I've always just told if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And I mean, if I can't, that's why a lot of times people will want to do some work for them, clear their land right away. And if it's not the right time to do it, I won't do it. And if they get somebody else that'll come in there the next day and start and clear it, that's fine, you know. I mean, they're going to get what they pay for. If they're not going to even get what they pay for, because they're going to be cut off, and they're going to come back, and down the road they're going to have to clear them out again. It just makes it that much harder. So I may make some people mad, but I'll tell them when's the right time to do it, what it's going to look like. And I've even turned down some jobs that, not as far as brush work, but other things that people was wanting to do this, and I told them that it won't work. And I said, I can't do it because you're not going to be satisfied with the job that I do down the road. And I got my integrity and my of what I'm doing, that I want you to know up front that it can be done or it can't be done. And there's people that'll do it no matter what, whether it'll work or not. So that's just something you need to watch out for when you're having work done on your place. So anyway, I'm fixing to head in there, and I might get the drone up this morning while the wind's not blowing and kind of show you what I've grubbed and the areas from that I'm going to grub here. But all of that will be grubbed off. Now I'm going to leave some big shade trees if there's some for the cattle when they come up here on top, because there's no shade for them and stuff. And the creek bottom's got big creek trees. They can get down there. They stay down there a lot when it's in the summertime. But might as well leave them a few mesquite trees. And yes, them trees are going to have beans, but if you cleared every tree on this place, you would still have mesquite trees coming back. So you might as well have some shade for your cattle. So we'll let y'all see some of that when we get started here after a bit. And thank y'all for watching this channel. If you hadn't subscribed, wish you'd do that and help this channel grow. So we're gonna get to bumping some stumps here pretty soon. Let y'all see that. Bye. I think everything's hooked up. My wires is hooked up. I had this hooked up the other day in here. And didn't have my wire to my mic on there, so no sound. So anyway, I think I've got it hooked back up. We're still out here grubbing. I'm going to finish up here probably in a couple hours, so just like a little bit where we're at, and try to get that thing finished up today, and may try to get my dozer in, get the rubber off the blade on, and maybe I can get back up here tomorrow and start raking. So thank y'all for watching Dunsmore Moving Dirt. We're moving brush instead of moving dirt today, so everything has been working just wonderful. The new dozer, I think, is going to handle the grubbing part all right. Didn't know how the grubber was going to hook to the dozer, but that went better than I expected. So just had to get a few different bolts to hook up the trunnion caps on there, and needed short ones like I had with the old dozer, and not, but the only time I'll use them is when I hook to the grubber. So this little part here that we're on has more grass than the other part, because the cattle don't get on here yet. I took out an old fence here a couple months ago, and they're going to build a new fence. Plus, when there's a crop planted up here on top of this little hill, they're supposed to plant cotton here this year, so that field up there is going to be cotton, so they probably won't have no cattle in here till after they get that off this winter or something, if there's cattle even up here. It's grubbed so good that I've left this thing in eco mode, they call it, so all during the job, and I hadn't hit a tree that it didn't have enough to pull it out. So that's nice to know, because you do a lot of driving around when you got your grubber on. It's just not solid pushing. Of course, when you're pushing dirt, you spend half the time backing up to get another load. So I'll kind of see what the fuel did on it running it in eco mode. It slows the engine down to 1700 RPMs unless you hit a tight spot or hard spot or something, and it'll go up and it'll come right back down. So just like then, it went up to 1800 RPMs, then back down to 17. So when you're just driving around, so that'll help. The way fuel and stuff is, if you can save a little bit of fuel and still have enough power and speed to do what you want to do. So that other dozer had the same thing, and I didn't really run it that much. Now, like when I was finishing up a pond and picking up my ridges and stuff, I put it in that a lot, and I did put it in that grubbing sun. I doubt if I'll put that in when I'm raking, because it's kind of like pushing dirt. When you're needing to push something, you need all the power you can get. So still wearing my seat belt. It's not so bad. I mean, I don't even know I have it on, but like driving up to a gate, having to get out and go in the gate, you got to take it on, put it off to drive through the gate, to get out, to put it back in on, to get back out to shut the gate so you can move again, and that part's kind of a pain. But while you're operating, I mean, I don't even know what's on there till if I forget that it's on there and I've tried to sit up, it does not allow me to do that. I figured out I got the seatbelt on. And if you're driving a dozer and unclick it, there's a little bell and whistle comes on, and that tells you you have undone your seatbelt. It doesn't stop the machine though, it just drives you crazy, so you're going to click it back. So. And I do not have a clue what y'all are seeing up there. I didn't look at it on my phone to see what the view is. Surely you can see the front of the dozer or out the front, or may even can see me. I got the camera on wide view, so if not, you can probably look in the mirror and see it. I'm about to get used to the forward and reverse switch. And it is smoother than pushing the lever forward and pulling it backwards to go that direction. Sometime while I'm up here, I'm going to go out. This pond has always been a nice pond, and I used to go swimming in it when I was a kid and catch channel cat out of there, and they said it's kind of went to getting salty water, which has got salt cedars all the way around it. It does have a gravel bottom, and it's a nice swimming pond because it's got a real gravel bottom, but it does seep a little bit. There, before I started, there's a partition here where they dug this back end out, and this end was dry and that had very little water in it. Well, it's caught quite a bit of water, but it still likes 6-7 foot being full. But I just don't know. They said nothing hardly would drink the water out of it, and now that could be the lower it gets and the longer it stays out of the way, the saltier it could get. When it's full of water, it seeps a little bit of maybe out from these hills here, some salt water. So, but when it's so low, the intensity of the salt may be greater than when it's full of water, because the fresh water on top is keeping that salt water from coming in. Sounds good anyway, but I have dug one, and while I was digging it, salt water was coming in it, and you just stick a little bit on your tongue, and man, it just seemed like it burned a hole in it. And it was, I took some and had it checked, and they said how many times. It was 5 times salter than seawater. but I was almost through with the pond, and they thought it would be all right. No more. It wasn't coming in under pressure or nothing. It was just seeping in. And sure enough, when the tank got full, they checked it. It didn't have hardly any in there because the pressure of the water on top was keeping the salt water from coming in it. And what little bit did come in, it was so diluted, it didn't even make no difference. So that may be why that pond there, I mean, used to have fish in it. They don't think it's got any marine life at all in there now. But I used to catch catfish in it, and go swimming in it, and it wasn't salty. Of course, that was 50 years ago, so that's a lot can change. You hate to see a nice pond like that go bad. These trees look dead right here, but they're not, because you can see all them side roots that's going on there. That stump's not dead. That chemical, when they spray for their crops, keeps the top knocked down, but it doesn't kill the stump. Got to get that tree out of that grubber that's stuck in there right there. You never know, you get one stuck in between those pipes and you don't know how much of it's stuck on this side of the grubber. You have another tree hit it and push it, sometimes it goes right up through your grill. So that's, I'd rather stop and look than just thinking it's all going to be all right, because sometimes it's not.